All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's training on floor finish and maintenance. My name is Steve Guy. I'm Desco's Eastern Regional Sales Manager, and assisted me throughout this presentation today as Jeffrey Brake, Desco's Brand Manager. Please ask your questions as we go. You can type your questions in the panel box, as you can see in the picture to the right. We will be pausing at the midway point, and I believe also at the end of the presentation to address any questions you may have. So type your questions as we go. To give you a quick overview, we'll be going over industry standards, different product applications for floor finish, and some maintenance recommendations for your floors. To give you a quick overview on requirements for an ESD flooring system, the ESD Association is the organization responsible for making industry standard. S20.20-2014 is the widely accepted standard document in the industry. And you need to have product qualification as a part of your ESD flooring system requirement per ANSI STM 97.1 and STM 97.2. You also need to have a compliance verification plan per TR 53 as a part of your ESD flooring system requirements. And we'll break that down in the next two slides. So product qualification requires two separate tests. The first test is a resistance measurement in combination with a person, and the limit on that is that it needs to be less than 1 × 10⁹ ohms per STM 97.1. The other test you need to conduct for product qualification is a body voltage test in combination with a person, and the person on your ESD floor or on your floor needs to have less than 100 volts in their body per STM 97.2. So to get a better understanding of how product qualification works, it tests your entire system. So it's testing the whole system together. Okay, so it's testing your flooring, your finish, your foot grounders, etc. So at every component together. And you must do your testing in a controlled environment with required humidity levels at 50% and 12% RH. Moving on to your compliance verification requirements, this test only requires one test, right? An RTT test, which is just the resistance of your floors, okay? This is also part of your electricals testing program, which we will cover towards the end of this. So this compliance verification test, remember to understand this, is only testing the components within your system, and the product qualification test is testing the entire system with all the components together. There are two primary functions for floor finish, and the first one is that it protects and enhances ESD permanent flooring, and the other function for floor finish is that it converts hard non-ESD floors to ESD protective flooring. We broke that down a bit further for you guys. So for ESD flooring, the floor finish will protect and enhance existing ESD properties. It works well with vinyl, VCT, rubber, latex, and epoxy. And for non-ESD floors, the floor finish creates a coating over the floor. And that also works well with vinyl, rubber, wood, sealed concrete, etc. Moving on, our floor finish is made in the USA. It has a cross-linked formulation for durability, so you can think of it as long-term, right? So the product will last longer. It's UL listed for slip resistance. Our floor finish is also RoHS compliant. So what it means is that there are no hazardous chemicals within our floor finish, okay? It doesn't require any special handling or environmental concerns. But I always say read the SDS on our website, okay? So if you go on our website, type in the part number, we have SDSs there and in the resources tab. Our floor finish is also available in different size gallons, as you can see here. So 1, 2.5 gallon, 5 gallon, and 55 gallon options. Jeffrey, do we have any questions at this point?
We do have a few. I'm texting back and forth or writing answers back and forth with the people, so we might have a few more. But let me share these with everybody. One question: what happens if you use non-ESD floor finish or non-ESD floor cleaner with an ESD flooring tile or substrate? Basically, what happens there is that the resistance level between the floor and the operator's foot grounder is going to increase. and at some point it's going to be out of spec. We've actually seen floor tiles, ESD tile, where people are using a non-ESD cleaner, and the residues left behind on it actually make the floor insulative. So they've spent all this money for a good ESD floor, and now they've made it useless because of the cleaners they've been using. So that was one question. We had a simple question too. What's the normal spread rate for floor finish? It's about 2,000 to 2,500 square feet per gallon. So that's pretty straightforward. One more question: why isn't there a separate category for floor finish in the ESD Association in the S20.20, or a special category or a special standard for it? The basic answer for that is that the ESD Association and the 2020 revision in 2014, they made some changes to the way flooring and foot grounders were listed. They basically started calling it a system, which is kind of noted there at the bottom of the slide. So anything that's part of that system, if you're using a ESD tile and you're using a finish, or you're using a mat on top of that, which is possible also, and then your foot grounder, they're calling that one thing. It's a systematic element for ESD control. So if all elements of those systems aren't working correctly, then something's not working right. So the compliance verification tests are separated. You test your foot grounders with a touch tester, and you test the floor or the floor finish or whatever's on the surface with an R meter, as we pointed out earlier. So those are three questions I wanted to share with people. I don't have any others, but if you guys keep asking the questions, if I can't answer it on a text back, then we'll answer it at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and continue here, Steve.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey. All right, to help you understand the initial application process, here's what you can do. So you need to find a test patch area, okay? So this area, you need to choose an area that has a lot of traffic. So high traffic area to determine the durability and performance of the floor finish. You can use the Desco online calculator to help you determine materials needed. You need to have dedicated new mops and buckets to prevent cross-contamination. You need to use a neutralizer after stripping to bring the pH level down to a 7. Okay, this is important because it will help the floor finish adhere properly when you are ready to apply the floor finish on your floor. So to help you better understand this part here, floor finish can be used on concrete, but concrete, here's the problem: concrete can be porous. Okay, so it's going to suck up a lot of your floor finish, which is costly for you as the end user. So it's better to have your concrete sealed or coated with a conductive epoxy or paint. Okay, so we're recommending a conductive epoxy or paint here, or sealing your concretes rather than using floor finish on concrete. It can work, but it can be costly. And to help you understand this part here, we must know that charges move to areas of larger capacitance. So for areas greater than 50 square feet, grounding is not required for this reason, okay? And the reason is the capacitance of the flooring is vastly greater than the capacitance of the human body, okay? So charges will go towards areas that have a larger capacitance. So if a human is on there, you have a small capacitance compared to the floor, the surface of the floor. So for areas greater than 50 square feet, you want to understand that grounding isn't required. If you have any particular questions on this, we can address it towards the end as well, or you can shoot me an email towards the very end. But we'll address it some more if you have further questions. Now, to help with ongoing maintenance, an electricals testing program needs to be developed. Okay, so you want to start this process off weekly to determine how long the floor finish will last. You also want to note that high traffic areas will need frequent maintenance, and you want to map out certain areas in your facility that you want to do your testing on. Okay, Moving on to our dust mop program. This program should be scheduled daily. So this is to ensure that you keep the floor surface clean. You want to use an untreated dust mop or push broom to help with this process. And the program was really designed to remove accumulated dirt and insulative contaminants on your floor. Moving on, the floor cleaner program should be scheduled weekly. You want to have a ratio of 1 to 10 cleaner to water, okay? And if you're using a Zamboni, a ratio of 1 to 15 cleaner to water is required. You want to ensure to let your floor dry thoroughly after mopping with diluted cleaner solution. And you can use the floor cleaner to spot clean small or spills and blemishes on your floor. So if you notice any spots that are and spills and blemishes on your floor, you can use it by hand to wipe it down. Another program for maintenance is our damp mop program. Okay, so this is when you as an end user, you know that your resistance, okay, the RTT test doesn't exceed the 10 to the 9th ohm limit, but your aesthetics need improvement. So here's what you can do. You need 1 to 3 floor finish to water ratio. You can experiment with the ratio of the floor finish to water based on your results, but you never want to exceed 1 to 2 floor finish to water, okay? So you can experiment around, but there are limits to how far you can experiment. Our recoat program, on the other hand, is when you know, as an end user, you know that your resistance, your RTT test is over 10 to the 9th ohm limit, so it's out of spec, your floors are out of spec, and your aesthetics need improvement. This program is designed to help replenish solids that are worn away over time. This is done after cleaning the surface. And you want to use undiluted floor finish to apply as a medium coat with a clean rayon mop. Moving on to our 2 other programs here. So we have a dry burnish program and a spray buff program. The dry burnish program is designed, so the dry burnish program increases gloss and removes surface imperfections on your floor. We recommend doing it once a week or as needed. Whereas the spray buff program, you need a 1 to 2 floor finish to water or premix ratio. It's designed to give your floors extra gloss and shine. And we recommend that you do this once a week or as needed as well. To conclude here, we have some information. So here's some information regarding the First Floor Free program. So this program was intended for facilities that have a formal ESD control plan for manufacturing or handling static sensitive devices. So ESD sensitive items, and you have a formal ESD control plan, it's intended for you. It's also intended to replace floor finish that is already being used and or provide materials for initial coating. So if you're interested in initial coating, we can do that. And here's our commitment to you. So Desco will supply enough material to cover a maximum of 10,000 square feet only. Jeffrey, do we have any additional or final questions at this point? I think I may have lost Jeffrey there.
There you go. Steve, am I here?
There we go. Gotcha.
Sorry about that. Yeah. We do have a few questions that I want to relay to the wider audience. First one, how often do I have to recoat? So this is always going to depend upon the traffic level of the facility. But generally speaking, in my experience, roughly every month you end up having to recoat or go through a recoating process. Obviously, the thing that really drives that is the electricals. So if your electricals start to creep up towards 10 to the 9th and you're doing your testing on a regular basis, you'll know, hey, it's time to look at doing a recoat. Another question here. Let's see. Do I ever need to strip the material? We do offer a stripper, and you can strip the material. Generally speaking, if you're maintaining the floor finish, the electricals are not going to go out of spec, but the the appearance of it is not going to be as shiny. It's going to be harder to keep the aesthetics up over a long period of time. So we do find that people, if you're in a high visibility area, like it's a place where customers visit, and you want the area to look really nice, typically they end up stripping it about every month, or I'm sorry, every year or so. Not every month, every year. Another question, one more here. Can concrete be used as an ESD floor? We do find that concrete will test below 10 to the 9th fairly often, but that usually has to do with the amount of humidity and the moisture that the concrete is sucked up. So that will vary depending on the time of the year or the area of the country or the world you're in. So it's not really considered a reliable source to concrete by itself to be used as an ESD floor. So typically you'll end up using a conductive epoxy or a conductive paint on the concrete in order to get a consistent performance over time. And then floor finish can be used on top of that to make it look better if that's what you need to do. One other question here: can the ESD flooring testing procedure? It's right there in the picture. Basically, you're using your R meter. The picture of the lady there on the floor with the two probes. You're using your R meter to test areas of the floor to determine the resistance between those 2 points. You're usually going to have, depending on the size of the facility, you're going to have a couple dozen areas where you're checking on some similar or a semi-regular basis, let's say every 3 to 4 weeks. And that's what's determining if your floor is in spec. If you're using a floor finish, typically the floor finish is going to start to wear down. But if you have an ESD floor underneath, you're actually going to get higher resistance measurement. So if you're using a conductive tile, you're actually going to see the resistance measurements come up. If you don't have a conductive tile underneath or a conductive subsurface, you're actually going to see the measurements go down or higher resistant measurements. So that will be your cue to look at doing a recoat or doing some maintenance to the floor finish. Somebody's asking here about one more question here about how much of a coat do you have to use on a non-ESD surface? Typically with the stack guard floor finish, like on a non-ESD tile, which is kind of the standard application for it, you're going to need about 3 coats to start with. And the reason you do 3 coats is you want to get a nice buildup of material on top of the material. You'll probably get good electricals on the first coat. You'll get below 10 to the 9th, but the problem is it's going to wear so fast that it's not going to be. You're gonna have to be doing recoats every week or so. So if you get 3 coats on there, you probably, in a normal facility, you're probably going to get a good month or 2 before you need to really be recoating it. And as long as you're using ESD cleaners and maintaining the floor correctly. So with any, is it a follow-up question to that is it different than with an ESD surface below? Yeah, like I said, if you have a substrate that's an ESD floor and you're wearing off your floor finish, it's really a matter of aesthetics. Then you're losing that shine, you're losing that appearance. The function of the floor will still be there though, because it's conductive underneath. So you're still going to get good electricals. So I think that's, Steve, I think that's all the questions we have for now. If you guys, do you have your, I think the next slide has your email address, right, Steve?
That's correct. Yeah. So if you guys,
go ahead.
Yeah. So if you guys have additional questions, you can send me an email, and especially on the first floor free program or different applications for floor finish, how many coatings, those types of questions. You can always send me an email or you can call that number. But thank you all for coming in today and tuning in on and learning more about our floor finish products. And we look forward to seeing you next week or the following week.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Bye.